Hey guys, it's Dr. Traveler. This is Dr. Run, Think, Pray, and today I'm very excited. I have an interview with a really great guy. As you'll see in the interview, just a spectacular guy. It's Reverend Dr. Ralph Clingan, D-Min. He grew up in the southern tier of New York State. He received his bachelor's in religion, minoring in history, from Westminster College of New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. He received his master's of divinity in theology from Colgate Rochester Divinity School and his doctorate of ministry in evangelism from Columbia Theological Seminary of Atlanta, Georgia. He has served as an ordained minister of the Word and Sacrament of the Presbyterian Church, USA, for over 35 years, and 14 of which as pastor of the Good Shepherd Presbyterian Church in St. George, Utah. He's been a certified spin instructor since 2005 and an AFAA certified personal trainer. And he is currently an NASM certified personal trainer. He has successfully completed 36 marathons, 13 of which were here in St. George, the St. George Marathon, and he ran in the Boston Marathon in 2008. He's married to Cindy Allen Clingan, and between the two of them they have 7 children and 9 grandchildren, and they live over in Bloomington Hills, for those of you who are familiar with St. George. And I just want to, before this gets started, just say how much I love and care for Ralph. I've known him for a little while. We moved down to this southern Utah area back in 2010, and Ralph was really one of the first people that I was able to meet and be associated with, and have just really respected Ralph, and so I wanted to talk to him. And so I hope you enjoy the interview that I had with Ralph, and so I'll pass it over to the interview. All right, guys. As I just said from the introduction, and again, welcome to Dr. Run, Think, Pray. This is Dr. Traveler, and I am here today with Ralph Clingan. And as the intro said, he's got lots of other titles that go with his name. I know him as Ralph. I've known him for a little while, and just a great guy. So I appreciate you being here today. And where I first met him, I dabbled in a little bit of training. My master's is in sports science and rehab, and I started to teach these classes over at the Washington Community Center, where Ralph was a trainer, and he was kind of the go-to guy. So anytime I had questions about most anything trainer-wise, I'd go to Ralph. And then I later found out that he does everything. You know, as I said in the intro, lots of other education and ministry work and all of that. But I guess where we'll start with then, Ralph, and usually I start out with getting to know you, but I guess we'll start with that. I already gave Ralph a heads up that this, that we talk about physical, mental, and spiritual health. So I'm interested in how those two, the work and the ministry that you've done, and then the personal training and all of that. So from a very beginning, how would you explain from for you, how did you get into those two things? What brought those two together?
Well, in a very personal way, I grew up as a son of a Presbyterian minister.
Okay.
And so the church always has been a part of my life and living. But also in high school, I was active in sports. I ran cross country and I wrestled. And so basically having sort of both a spiritual and a physical routine has always kind of been part of in the background of my life. Just to briefly say that, early on in my high school years, I had a sense that I had the gifts for ministry.
Yeah.
And by the time that I finished high school and entered college, I had the call to ministry.
Nice.
That I pursued and followed and came through. And as I mentioned to you, that I've been doing now for over 35 years.
Yeah.
And how the two become combined.
Yeah, when did the trainer part come in?
Well, that came in later. The trainer part came in when I was serving a church in Washington, D.C., and I became very active in, that's when I really started running seriously. Did my first marathon there and really became part of doing spin classes and so forth and so on. And someone made the comment to me that, hey, I see you at spin class, you ever think about teaching it? I'm like, well, no, I didn't think about teaching it. Maybe I should. So I got certified for that, and then process moved out here and taught spin classes, and a person that's well known in the area, Colleen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was
Colleen
the
Root.
the director at Washington. And when they opened the doors, I put my app in to be a spin instructor. And Colleen and I had run and done her classes and so forth, and she made the same comment. You ever think about becoming a personal trainer?
There you go.
Huh. So I got certified in that, and
Awesome.
I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. And it's interesting because it started out that my spiritual life and my physical life, my mental life, were almost separate categories, but with life experience and time became woven together.
Yeah.
You made the comment at the beginning that you saw that your call is to help people, teach people, help people spiritually, physically, and mentally.
Yeah.
And I think that's an excellent definition of the Christian ministry, as far as I see it.
Awesome. Okay. So that in moving right along with that, and again, I'm kind of skipping. Maybe. Well, let's go back just a bit. Then you mentioned that your dad was a minister.
Yes.
Yeah. And so was this family values? I mean, obviously you were an active kid. Was that something that was taught early on?
I was raised in a home as the technical term PK, preacher's kid.
Preacher's kid. The songs, right?
Exactly. And I tested my father on many occasions. So yes, we were raised with that values, the value of the church and so forth. The question, it's an odd question for me for anybody to ask, do you want to go to church? Of course, that's where you are.
Yeah.
That's where you have to be on Sunday morning.
Sure.
And where you should be. I mean, or involved in some religious community, because you need community.
Mm-hmm.
You need that faith. You need that spirituality. All that adds to health.
Yeah.
And so that early part came to me. To be honest with you, I fought it when I called. Because I knew my father worked so hard. And I'm like, I'm not sure I want to work that hard.
Yeah.
And my father had passed my first year of college.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But thank you. So I didn't have him to sort of advise me and guide and direct me. So when I graduated from college, I was accepted at Princeton Theological Seminary, another seminary in Chicago, and I had friends who went to Florida and said, hey, if this preacher thing doesn't work out, come on down.
Yeah.
So I was about to enter, and I thought to myself, I'm not sure that this is what I want to do or what, I need to do. So I packed up all my worldly possessions in my Ford Pinto, which tells you how many worldly possessions I had,
Yeah.
and headed south to Florida,
Okay.
where I moved in with a bunch of college friends. And that following Easter, as I tell family and friends and all who listen, I went to the Easter services, and I cannot tell you what the preacher preached or what was said, but I know I had a wrestling match with God, and he won.
Yeah.
And with time, I can tell you we both won.
Yeah.
That Monday, I sent my application back to seminary, and
The
been
rest
ever
is,
since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. All right, and before the interview, I was kind of talking with Ralph and gave him a little heads up because for him, where he has a really interesting view, I think, where he again is a personal trainer, so helps people physically,
Mm-hmm.
and then ministry, and so helping people spiritually and mentally, and all those how they all kind of fit together. But I'm interested to see from him how he defines those. So for you, I mean, let's maybe start with physical. So physically healthy.
Mm-hmm.
How would you? What's that definition for you? And I think it is a personal answer, right?
Physical wellness and health is a matter of taking care of the body
Mm-hmm.
and challenging the body. As I told you, I wrestled in high school, and if you know anything about wrestling, it's discipline.
Yeah.
And
I can't do it. Wrestling and swimming I can't do because I can't breathe.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a discipline. So I had that background with me for forever, just about. But as I work with people and train with people, they ask the question, how do I discipline myself to get up in the morning, get on my running shoes, and get out the door? And I tell them it's very simple. I never ask myself if I want to.
There you go.
Because there's no option.
Yeah. You know the answer.
I know the answer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get up and I'm going to go. And really, when I'm out there running, when I'm exercising, it's a spiritual feeling at the same time. I do some of my best praying at 5:30 in the morning out on the trails.
Sure.
And I find that if I have questions mentally or so forth, that when I'm in the middle of exercising and working and taking care of my body and challenging it, lots of times those answers will come.
Yeah. That's awesome. So then we'll go to the definition of mental, and maybe those two go kind of hand in hand. And if you want, you can define the mental and the spiritual now, but we'll break them up separately. So mentally healthy, how would you define that?
Mentally, like you exercise the body, you have to exercise the mind.
Yeah.
You need to read.
Yeah.
You need to read, you need to observe, you need to learn. I mean, basically, after we take our first breath, in reality, we're learning throughout our life every day.
Yeah.
And we're given all these senses, and to be aware, and to learn in terms of not only yourself, but to learn in terms of what other people have written and researched and done. Like I learn a lot from you every time I visit you in your office.
He's too kind.
Yes.
I learn from him.
Well, it's a very mutual thing.
That's right.
And that's good.
Yeah.
And also to be open to different fields and aspects of life. I don't focus entirely on being a clergy. I don't focus entirely on being a trainer. I like to broaden my horizons and learn about a lot of things.
Okay.
I
can tell. Sorry, I interrupted you.
And what I did not put in my bio, and that I've learned a lot now for the past 4 years, is I also do some work as a hospice chaplain.
Oh, really?
Really. So I work with people at that part of their lives, which is coming to an end.
Yeah. How's that been?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Meet some wonderful, wonderful people and hear some tremendous stories of life and faith and love.
Awesome. All right, then we'll go on to the spiritual then, and this kind of transition to this well. How would you define spiritual health for you?
In tune, I guess, in the broadest of senses, constantly trying to be in tune with my Creator.
Awesome.
Trying to be in conversation, not only speaking but listening with Him. A lot of ways you do that. You do that through prayer, through scriptures. You talked with me a little bit and prior to this about how my approach to the day was. And if you go to our worship service on Sunday morning, it always starts with the quote from the Psalm, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it."
Awesome.
And that's the way I start my day. It's a gift.
Yeah.
And I take time to listen, to read, to pray. It's just as important as everything else. Too often we put those things to the side. But, in terms of your field, that if you just eat ground beef and nothing else for 24/7, it's not going to end well.
Even if ground beef is good a little bit, right?
Exactly. That's what you eat with it.
Sure.
In various aspects.
I think that's awesome. I'm interested then also to hear, when we talk about spiritual, and yours obviously you use religion.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So as far as, and I know maybe you hear this, there's, a lot of people I hear, moving away from, say, religion. How do you use, say, religion to help you spiritually or even physically and mentally? How does the religious practice help you?
It in many respects it's a source of my strength.
Okay.
It keeps me going. One of my favorite scriptures that I say at probably mile 5 and mile 10 and mile 20 is, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And I say that with repetition, and it's very true.
Yeah.
Even when I stumble, I'm still know that I had that strength to get up or go forward.
Awesome. All right. Now my next question. I don't know if I gave you too much of a heads up, but a challenge. So I'm interested when you meet a challenge. What do you do to kind of overcome that? Is there a challenge that maybe you could share? I know that's a very personal question and off the cuff. Or maybe you can just think in general when you face a challenge what you go through. But if you have one in particular, you could maybe share to help get through that challenge, either physically, mentally, or spiritually, or all three.
Well, I would say probably the greatest challenge that I have faced in my life, or most challenging time, was my youngest child was born with a severe heart defect, and spent the first year of his life literally fighting for his life. And there were surgeries and treatments, and having been a pastor, that was one of the few times I wished that I was not a pastor because I knew too much.
Yeah.
When the doctors were talking to me about what might happen and so forth, I had seen it happen.
Yeah.
And so, I always remember when he was going in for his major heart surgery, that I was petrified and fear, filled with fear.
Yeah.
And so forth. And I had a relative said to me, well-meaning,
yeah,
where's your faith? And I thought to myself, my faith is here, but I know what I've seen and what can happen. And I know nothing here is for sure. But I can just put myself in someone else's hands and know his will, not mine.
Yeah. So were there any things specifically that you used? I mean, your faith, the faith in God?
My faith and my friends. And people that I've been closest to who, out of love, would listen. I may be jumping subjects here for you.
No, that's fine.
It's a drum I have been beating, and that is I focus on a recent statement or study, and that is that due to our technology, we are the most connected generation or civilization to ever exist, but at the same time, we are the most disconnected.
Yeah.
Because we lack, in many respects, community. And that community is the friends. I mean, we were given each other to lean and learn upon.
Yeah.
And I guess the one thing that my greatest challenge and my greatest learning was that that there are things that I cannot do by myself. But there are friends who are waiting for me to lean upon.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are things that we can't accomplish, that wall that we can't go beyond. And if we can't get, there's those who help us over it, or those who stand there beside us as we face it.
Yeah.
And that is a great source of strength.
That's awesome. Great thoughts. Anything, and I'm sure, I don't know if you remember specifically, but maybe you can think of other stressful times. Is there anything physically? Obviously, I always, exercise is a release, but is there anything specifically that you did back then, or that you can remember, or that you do on a regular basis to overcome those trials?
It is, that routine that consists both of my mental growth, my physical growth, my spiritual growth. They all have to be there, and they all have to be working. And the one time I forgot that was the one time I got in trouble. I was a very young man with young children, and practically brand new into the ministry.
Yeah. And
tons of stress on top of me. And I wasn't exercising, and I was just, I got to the point where my wife was seriously concerned about me because I was started going into depression.
Oh, no.
And I went, and wisely, I went to a therapist, a counselor.
Yeah.
He said, you need to be exercising. You need to be reading. You need to be doing that. I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
And you know what? The minute I started doing that, turned it around.
Yeah.
I came out.
And you probably never left it since.
Never left it since. No.
Huh.
No, in fact, I am blessed because I think I can say that I love what I do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of corny. I think of that Jerry Maguire movie with that old guy in the background and said, "You get up every morning and I do this," and I'm, I'm him.
Yeah, you're excited about
I'm
it.
excited about it.
I can tell. You can
You
tell.
know,
That's you're a fun guy to be around.
Well,
Great spirit.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love all the people I meet. And I love everything that's I've been blessed with. You know?
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so, and you've already alluded to all of this. You said, the habits and rituals and things, that becomes very important. I'm interested to know, maybe physically, mentally, and spiritually, if you could pick out maybe one or two habits. If someone's listening and they're saying, Ralph's got this great routine down. And in fact, I had a patient today that just said, it just becomes overwhelming. There's too many things. There's so many things that I have to worry about, and I can't do all of them. So if you were to give maybe one habit or two habits, physically, mentally, and or spiritually, and you can do all three, but are there any habits, things that you do on a regular basis, and you may have already said them, that really helps you?
Well, I was going to say, one of the best or soundest advice that I've received throughout my career in life is to listen before you speak. And that is as well with individuals as it is with other aspects.
Yeah.
Begin there. And secondarily, I'm in a helping profession, and as you are. And it is so tempting to just spread yourself out so thin and so wide and so forth that you're going to snap. But those of us who work with hospice care and patients, so forth, if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
So you start there. And what are the things that you can identify that will bring you the true health, total health?
Yeah.
And make that a priority. We say, well, yeah, I got to do this, I got to do that. Before you do that, this is what you need to do. Make that your priority, then the rest follows.
Awesome.
Your health is your priority.
Yeah, if you don't have your health, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
And of course, we always, I'm sure you said a million times, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
That's right. That's how God created us.
Exactly.
Everything we have is kind of use it or lose it,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
That's really cool. All right, Ralph. So you've obviously gained a lot of knowledge, and we're kind of getting closer to the end of our little interview here. I appreciate you. So are there any books other than the Bible, right? That's the go-to for you. I know that.
Yeah.
Other than that, any books or people that you listen to? There's a lot of, we've got podcasts and webcasts. Is there anything that you listen to or read on a regular basis that really helps you to revive you?
I'm an old fan of C.S. Lewis.
Oh yeah?
Yes, I have thoroughly enjoyed his books and go back and read them again. And from a Christian's perspective, a very famous author and theologian, Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
I'd like to read his stuff. One of his famous book is Cost of Discipleship.
Yeah.
Which is powerful, but it's very inspirational. There's a couple others. William MacDonald and Oswald Chambers are both authors.
Yeah.
All this is revealing my age, I know. But,
I was going to say, but these are like long time old, much older than you,
yes.
even a lot of them, but they're tried and true.
And the current one would be like Philip Yancey. I like a lot of his writings. I was just reading and I was at a support group, a grief support group, the other night, and that I was helping lead, by the way. And Yancey, in one of his books, I wish I could remember the title for you, did a comparison between these two young women.
Yeah.
Both of them were in skiing accidents and both become paraplegics. One of the women became very bitter and very angry. The other woman began to search out on the web women who had had similar accidents and write letters of encouragement.
Huh.
And of course, we know which one was the healthiest.
Sure. Yeah, easily.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. Awesome. I'll have to check out some of those. I'm aware of some, but there are some that I hadn't heard of, so I'll have to go check those out. All right, Ralph, last question. You've touched a lot of hearts, a lot of people, myself included. What impact, what would you hope? I guess the easy question, at your funeral, someday we're all going to go, right? At your funeral, what do you hope that they say about you?
I guess the main thing that I hope they say about me is that he left our lives a little brighter than he found them.
Awesome.
And that would be enough.
I think that would be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a given so far. You've done a great job so far.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Ralph, I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you too.
Yeah, and he really is just a great guy. And as those who have been following, I only have a few. He was one of the first guys I thought to call. I thought, I've got to talk to Ralph. I've got to interview him and pick his brain.
And Justin has helped me in so many ways with my running and so forth and so on. At the minute he said, would I said, how could I not?
I appreciate him. Yeah, so
Appreciate
thank you. All right, this is Dr. Traveler and Ralph, and we're signing out. Guys, thanks for checking out Dr. Run, Think, Pray. Please like, please subscribe, comment below. If you have any questions, let me know. And always remember to be healthier today than you were yesterday. Be healthier tomorrow than you were today. And this is Dr. Traveler signing out.